Hello? Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Chris from VA Claims, Veterans Helping Veterans. Welcome to our live Q&A, our first one for 2023. As always, we have our awesome administrator and moderators. We got Stephanie, Blake, Jackie, and Ashley all with you here. So we're going to give a couple more minutes here, let people get on. Go ahead and start posting your questions. I'll pop up every now and then, but for right now, I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie.
Hey guys, welcome. Hope everybody had a happy new year. Welcome to our first live Q&A of the year for 2023. And before we get started, like Chris said, kind of tell us where you're from. Post your questions. Myself, I'm a veteran. That's my knowledge. I've got Blake. He's a retired medical doctor. I've got Jackie. She's got the knowledge and I think a lot of the answers from the VA. I've got Ashley as myself as a veteran helping out. So these guys, this is your team right here. These are the people that I rely on all year long in the group. We post your questions. We try to answer your questions. We monitor it. So I really appreciate everybody.
Don't forget me.
Oh, I did forget you. There's Chris. Well, you went off the screen, so
I know. I just pop in and out.
But
he's our IT guy.
See, now he's gone. Poof, he's gone. But Chris is there too. So we do this live, guys, just for you guys. We take our own time out of our busy schedules. So we're here to try and answer the questions as best we can. If we don't know the answers, we'll try to further investigate it and get back to you guys. So before we kind of get started, let me just do this real quick disclaimer for all of us here. VA Claims, Veterans Helping Veterans is not accredited agent. We're not VSO. We're not attorneys or entity recognized by the Department of Veteran Affairs, and we're not affiliated with the VA in any way. We do not assist veterans with preparation, presentation, and prosecution. VA disability claims for VA benefits. This Q&A is solely for guidance purposes and should not be considered as medical or legal advice. Yay, now that we got that out of the way. All right, so we've got quite a few people here. So hi, Pam. Welcome back. Hope you had a happy new year. I know you and Dan are getting ready to put on the fight with the VA judge. They got a hearing in a couple weeks. Ms. Jenkins, howdy. Nice to see you. And let's see what else we've got. Oh, are we already starting to get questions?
Yeah, we've already got a couple of questions. So I think we're just going to kind of hop in here and get to it.
That sounds great.
If you guys are ready, I'm ready, and we'll get going.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
here we go. Ready? Hey, my chatty catties, you ready?
I'm all ready.
All right, Ms. Jenkins, she's needing clarification. So they scheduled a DBQ exam and then do CMP exams. How does that work? Jackie, you want to answer? I know the answer, but you want to clarify that for her? Because
basically what VA does is they determine who has the best availability to schedule your exams with, and whether that be with the vendor or with the VHA. So the system does it automatically for them, and then what they'll do is they'll order the DBQ, like you said, and then any medical opinions that they also need to go along with it. And then, you know, it's pretty much up to the vendor to get you in, scheduled for it, provide the opinions. Sometimes the claims get pulled for some quality control because they're their own entities as well. And then when everything's done, they send it back to the VA, and with the goal that it's not sitting too long, that it changes the claim status so a rater can look at the claim. I hope that answered your question.
Well, and I think
the confusion here is that a DBQ and a CMP exam the same thing, or do they do them separately? In the DBQ, the Q it's a questionnaire that gets filled out usually by the CMP doctor.
Yeah. So Ms. Jenkins, that's a disability benefits questionnaire, as Blake and Jackie touched on. That is what the examiner has when they're asking you questions. Now, keep in mind, not the entire DBQ has to be asked of the veteran. Sometimes the rater's only looking for a few pieces of that DBQ sometimes and just ask certain questions. So don't think that the entire DBQ has to be answered in your compensation exam.
And sometimes the contractors will call ahead and ask the DBQ questions ahead of time before you go in for the actual physical exam.
Yeah, I've heard of that in the group too. People asking if that's like legit and why are the doctors, but it's kind of, don't you think that's kind of good? They kind of get in the background before the veteran comes in.
Right.
I think that's good. So I hope that answered your question, Miss Jenkins. All right. Do we have X guy on a couch? I love that, guy on a couch. I was rated 10 for DDD, 10 for lower mid back, 20 overall. Don't recall being asked about radiculopathy. What's the best route, appeal rate, or filing for radiculopathy? Also ROM has worsened from, I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, US Navy. Go Navy. So I'll touch a little bit and then everybody else can touch. From what I'm understanding, if you did not file for radiculopathy, that would be my first question. Did you file for radiculopathy? Because that is a separate claim.
Actually, stuff. When it comes to like back and neck, the radiculopathies are automatically inferred. So you're actually examined for them at DBQ when they're doing the DBQ exams for your neck and back. And if the examiner determines there's a disability, the VA will automatically infer. It's almost like when you file for having a surgery. Well, generally, if you have surgery, you have a scar, right? So the scar is automatically inferred. Radiculopathy is the same way with the back and neck, upper and lower extremities. So it's absolutely, definitely should be addressed. If they didn't do it, it's either an error or they did not find anything on the exam.
So are you saying that if you go in for I go in for my ankle and I have a scar, the scar should be automatically looked at too?
If it is related to a service-connected disability, yes. So if you had the scar from something prior, then it may not count. But if it's due to your service-connected disability, then yes, it should be.
It has to be a certain inch, correct? Because I think mine's 3 inches. I had back surgery, in 2021?
Yep,
and I have the DDD as well. And it's only 3 inches long. I want to say it's supposed to be, 6 inches or more?
No.
Because they gave me 0% for that.
Has to be unstable.
Unstable or painful. That's
Okay.
The size of it really doesn't matter. Tissue damage, or it's different if they're on your face or neck, like where your money makers are. Those are rated a little bit differently.
So back to his question, does he need to appeal something? Because he's saying, what's the best route for the appeal? Because apparently it wasn't addressed during his exam.
Thanks for throwing that back up, Chris. All right. So when you say DDD, degenerative disc disease, for the lower mid back, you were rated 10, 20 overall. Okay. So the examiner most likely did an evaluation. So if you think that you have radiculopathy and they didn't catch it upon the examination, then you could, depends if you're within your appeal period, you can file a higher level review or supplemental claim. If you're outside your appeal period, you're really kind of limited to a supplemental claim, but you have to submit new evidence.
So radiculopathy, that's the lower
Nerve
left and right.
damage.
I'm going with the back, right? That's the
Right.
lower left and right extremities, correct?
I get 20/20 for both of my legs because I had back surgery, and they included that automatically after my surgery.
That's
Okay, that's
numbness,
interesting.
tingling,
Mhm.
burning.
Well, that's interesting because Chris didn't. Chris can pop himself up here if he wants, but Chris had to actually file for lower left, right, and upper left, right. That to the cervical, the lower to the lower lumbar. They didn't
Right.
actually look at it for him.
They should have, and they should have caught it if they didn't. It's supposed to be addressed there on every neck and back DBQ. If you look at it specifically,
more ratings.
yeah, it specifically says, like, does the veteran have symptoms of radiculopathy? But
Yeah.
that's mostly like, more subjective symptoms, like Blake was saying, like the burning, the tingling, the numbness. They should actually be doing kind of like it's almost like a pinprick exam and seeing how much like you can feel. And then the doctors, I mean, if they're good, they can really just look at how you're reacting, how your reflexes are. You should be doing a muscle or reflex, a strength testing. There's like 4 different objective testing that they do. And then, of course, those other subjective elements.
Okay, I think Chris, he's got a follow-up, doesn't he? So I had a medical examiner fill out a DBQ after I was rated. All right, you need to elaborate. What do you mean?
Was it a private one that you had somebody fill out, or was it a VA one?
I had a medical examiner fill out a DBQ after I was rated. So guy on a couch, are you stating that for the I can't ever say that damn word.
Radiculopathy.
Yeah, that word.
Takes practice.
Oh my God. It does. I need to sit here and go blah, blah, blah. But I think we need a little bit more elaboration on what he's referring to regarding the medical examiner on the DBQ, because his first question was asking if he should appeal because he thinks it was missed. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Yes, private. He said private examiner.
You missed it. Like you didn't have it in before the rating decision, then it wasn't a record. So I wouldn't even bother with the higher level review, because the examiner did their job, which most likely they do, because this is like very elementary, like radiculopathy goes with back, radiculopathy goes with neck. It's very elementary. So it really should never be missed.
So he shouldn't appeal because that's new evidence.
Yep, that would count as new and relevant evidence. Put it in 0995, a supplemental claim. Make sure you cite that new evidence.
So a question to you then, if that's new evidence for something that wasn't even in a claim, wouldn't that just be a new claim when he just filed for the lower left and right extremities?
Well, because you always want to fight for the effective date. So he would want to file it and be like, they should have caught this on the back exam, saying that they missed it as part of it. But I mean, you could file a new claim for it too. If the examiner didn't find it on the examination, if they did it right, then, the effective date would probably be most likely the.
Okay. So guy on a couch, Jackie is giving you some good advice to take that medical exam because it wasn't of record with the original claim, but continue with the supplemental and submit that new evidence for the lower left and right extremities. And you gonna say something else?
Yeah, he needs to make sure that he cites that the radiculopathy should have been inferred with the back, because if you don't, they're going to say you've never claimed this before and you need to put in a new claim. You're trying to preserve that effective date. So
that word inferred.
It should have been inferred with my back. I have radiculopathy. Infer. Use that word.
Inferred. I like that. All right. So I think hopefully that helps and answers your question. I love that guy on the couch. That's pretty awesome. I like that. Do we have some more questions? If not, I've got a few others. Okay. So how often are claims rated with private DBQ and Nexus statements? I understand it's possible, but here VA will schedule CMP exams anyways, and private DBQ and Nexus might be worthless. Well, no. I mean, can you pop that question back up, Chris, please? Leave it for a second. So you can submit, like me, myself, I submitted my own Nexus medical opinion. You could submit that on behalf of your claim. However, the VA still has the right to send you to a CMP exam regardless, if they need that opinion. And while submitting your evidence is good, like I said, making sure you submit all your evidence, it still could warrant a CMP exam. Some things have to have a CMP exam, like when you have to go for ROM, flex, and extension, things like that, you have to have an exam. There's no way around it. Mental health, right? Jackie?
For certain conditions.
Right. You have to have a CMP exam. So regardless if you provide the private DBQ and Nexus statement, there, if it's for something that requires an in-person exam or even a mental health, you have to have it. Right?
Yeah, I guess I'll caveat a little bit on you just because this is definitely like a thorn in my side that I see very frequently. Stop paying for Nexuses. Like, I know Stephanie disagrees with me a little bit on this, but this is my own personal opinion. Stop paying for Nexuses. Most of the time, they can write you an 8-page Nexus and try to address everything under the sun, but they leave one little like thing out, and it's not valid for VA rating services. So some veterans are paying $1,000, $1,500 for these Nexus statements, and the examiners don't even write them in the correct way or provide the required information that Congress dictates to be able to use those Nexus statements. So essentially, those Nexus statements are made the equivalent of, you know, I want to claim this secondary now. So the VA can take the theory of entitlement and use it, but they're not using really using the opinion from the examiner, because they need to get an examiner that's going to write the opinion the right way with the required information to provide the opinion, because the person that the veteran paid or solicited, whether it be a private healthcare physician, anything like that, just
Well, I
something.
agree with you. I agree on the paid. I think it sucks that veterans are resorted to having to go pay these companies, these predatory companies and things like that. We all agree on that. I think.
Can I chime in on that one?
You can
Yes,
chime in
please do.
because he wants to. I know what he's coming with.
Yeah. So I actually went out to get a Nexus letter, paid for a Nexus letter. And I think what is happening is, for a time in the beginning, it was working, but the VA has caught on, especially they see the same doctors writing Nexus letters. So they're catching on to this. I don't want to call it a scam, but they're catching on to what people are doing. They're, you know, they see the same doctors over and over writing the same, you know, Nexus letters. I just think the VA is caught on. I don't think you should do it. I don't think you need it.
Well, and the other problem is all of us veterans are frustrated is because we're going to the VA, seeing doctors, and they have this and some of these doctors are, I can't write it, can't touch it, but they legally they can. All my VA doctors, I was fortunate, did write me medical opinions. And,
Right. And there's some good doctors that'll do it. Some doctors refuse to write a Nexus letter.
Well,
and that's why people kind of go out, and we have to get something.
Well,
Well,
from the medical
I
standpoint,
disagree with that.
yeah, from the medical standpoint, the doctors that say they won't do it or can't do it, one, they don't want to take the time to do it because it's a good 3 to 4 hours of work to do one appropriately.
right.
And two, there's a real good chance that they don't feel like that they can't put in writing that it's more likely than not caused by your service. You might believe it is, but when it comes down to the science of it, it's probably not, or they would put it in your chart.
And I just would like to comment on the VA forces veterans to go to extreme measures to get what they deserve. So we're in this generational dumpster fire where, you know, a lot of people are just trying to like work the system. This is the easiest time in this country's history to get your stuff service connected, to get, it used to be so difficult. Veterans used to wait for just regular claims 3 or 4 years. The VA has made, you know, everybody complains about the VA, but the VA has made extremely large strides in the past 5 to 10 years. It's incredible, really. But unfortunately, people won't submit like the, you know, you feel, you think. Well, you can, a veteran is competent to describe symptoms and everything else, but you're not qualified to diagnose. You're not a medical professional. So that's why a lot of this stuff always goes. But a Nexus statement, like I know you were talking about your stuff, Chris, a Nexus statement for, I would say 80% of veterans who would, you know, solicit a third party for a Nexus statement. And that, I think that's conservative. they end up going for another opinion. Like I said, they leave mandatory elements out of it. And you know what the veteran could have done instead of spending $1,500? They could have submitted an appeal or a new claim, and they could have wrote on a VA form 214138 statement in support of claim. I think that my knee or my back issue is because my gait's messed up because of my knee. I think I have headaches because, I broke my neck. I mean, whatever it is, you guys have the power to open up these theories of entitlement. You don't need a lawyer, and you certainly don't need one of these predatory companies, which, by the way, are under investigation by not only the VA, but also Congress.
Well, some of the other issues is one, a lot of veterans don't even know about, like what we just rambled off, the VA 214138, which is a statement in support of claim. And I'll reiterate it. Huh?
That's why we're here. That's
right.
why we're doing what we're doing right now.
I'm going to reiterate, everybody, and what Jackie said. That is what I tell every veteran: to communicate with the rater. That is your best form to communicate with the rater. If you need anything, if your CMP exam didn't go right, or you feel like you're missing something from your claim, or you forgot to tell the rater something, that is the form, which is a VA 21-4138, statement in support of claim. It's your best way to communicate with the rater. Now, in regards to us as veterans, what we see a lot too, in what we're doing here and in our group, is you see a lot of veterans filing claims and throwing it at the freaking wall and hope the shit sticks. That's what we see. Right. And unfortunately, that's what clogs the system up, because you've got somebody that says their toenail caused their headache. And then I see people saying, oh, well, I didn't file it correctly. Now I need to basically unfoobar what I just did. And that's where all the clogging happens. And that's why it's such an importance as a veteran to try to get the understanding before you file. Don't be so quick to file your claim. You can do an intent to file and have up to 1 year to file. Get it all right the first time.
All right. So little housekeeping notes going off what we were just talking about. We are here to help you guys with these, ways to file and do it the correct way. All right. Some other good info we have is I'm trying to put up, join our Facebook group, VA Claims, Veteran Helping Veterans. We have a lot of good stuff on there. Steph posts there all the time. We have links to good DBQs, VA forms, anything like that. So please join the Facebook group. Also, join our YouTube channel. All right. We post a lot of good videos there. All right. We get a lot of the same questions. We just posted the link to the video. People go look at it. All right. We're here to help you navigate this labyrinth of paperwork and red tape and whatever else somebody wants to, that's what we're here to do. All right. And then if you have any questions that we haven't got to, or do you want us to elaborate on, or anything like that, you can always email us at VACVHV@gmail.com. All right. A lot of ways to get to us: Facebook, YouTube, email. All right. If you have questions, please hit us up. All right. We have a special guest here who wants to ask a question. It looks like it's Alexis.
That's my daughter.
That's Stephanie's daughter.
Yeah. So let me see if I can get this up for you guys. Stand by for just a second. I'm going to share the screen and we're going to show it. All right. So her question is, so I was rated at 100% P&T with the VA on October 6th. I also am 70% DOD medically retired. On October 6th as well, they started a new claim for her P&T review. Why is that? And this is her screenshot, which she allowed me to show to you guys, basically showing that it says permanent and total review, which is usually what says RFE. RFE means routine future exam. So Jackie, do you have any idea why she would have this since October, which coincidentally is when she transitioned from active to being a veteran?
Yes, because VA came out with initiative and new training for claim processors about scheduling routine future exams, and then doing routine future exams later down the road. So obviously she wasn't permanent total. She had some sort of reevaluation in there. So what they're doing is they are doing a review to see if she can be reasonably expected to improve upon her condition, or if it's reasonable to expect she won't, in which case they'll grant, the
Okay.
DBA the permanent total status.
So what I told her was correct. Her DOD side, her mental health is TDRL. So she has okay, so let me explain. Her complex regional syndrome pain was 30 and her mental health was 70. Her mental health was the only thing that did not make her PDRL. It made her TDRL on the DOD side. Okay, but she got 100% P&T on the VA side.
It's two different things. So what DOD, so it changed, I think, between 2010 and 2013.
Okay.
But basically the VA, so most of the time when DOD is doing disability ratings to decide if they're going to retire a veteran or not, they actually use what the VA recommends. So she can be totally and permanently disabled through the VA, yes, right. But VA and DOD are two different
things.
So she's still going to have that temporary disability reevaluated probably through the VA. So she's, when it comes up to review, then they probably will grant it. But a certain amount of time for TDRL, I think it's 5 years.
Yeah. It's 18 months. It's 18 months to 3 years for her to have an evaluation. So do you think that that's what that is?
Yes.
It's just going to sit there.
Yeah. Maybe they process it faster, but with mental health and just getting out of the military, the expectation and the hope is that your conditions are going to improve, that you're going to get treatment, medication, therapy, something that you won't be disabled for the rest of your life, especially at your daughter's young age.
Right.
So the way DOD works and VA works, I last dealt with DOD retirement stuff in 2016, so I don't know if they changed anything, but if she's already 100% permanent total to the VA, it could be related to DOD because they would.
That's what I think it is.
Evaluation.
Well, because
that's what my guess would be, but I'm not positive.
Because her mental health on the VA side is static.
Yeah, then it probably is due to the DOD. That's what my best guess would be, but
that's what we think, Lexi.
Educated guess.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. That's what we think, Lex. So that's probably just going to sit there and I wouldn't even worry with it and just leave it like what it is. And just something to touch basis on. Is that Argelis? That's an interesting first name. She just touched basis going back to all of us talking about the nexuses and the veterans, trying to get help from their doctors and they have to go out and pay. She said, basically, she had said, what you're saying sounds good to you and I, Jackie, but unfortunately, the VA asked for a paper trail. And when you are still in the military, you may not bring those issues up because you want to continue to serve. Well, I understand the mentality when we're in service. We want to suck it up, buttercup, right? But if you're legitimately injured and you legitimately have an illness, you need to go to medical. It is what it is. If you want to get the documentation, especially if you go out and you've been out for over a year, it's much harder to get rated to service.
And especially if you still have an exit physical to do, if nothing else, bring it up there.
Yes.
And make sure it gets documented and say, I want to see it.
And honestly, if it's that bad, you should be seeking medical treatment for it too. It all kind of goes in hand. And then with the medical opinions, Blake, I was actually hoping, can you touch on this? So medical opinions are kind of like labels. Everybody has one. Can you kind of address how you could provide a Nexus statement that says one thing, but another doctor can say something else, and you can be completely valid, but can you touch on that?
Yeah, and everybody, just so you know, Blake's a retired doctor, and we love him. He's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, they're like belly buttons. Everybody's got one, and a lot of people stink. But
I like that.
It's all about looking at the whole record you're more likely to get a Nexus that says what you want it to say if you pay somebody. You're more likely to get a truthful Nexus from somebody who is treating you and knows you and knows what's going on, as opposed. So those may be two different things. You may, let's use diabetes as an example. Everybody in your family may have diabetes and you may be 80 pounds overweight, but you want to blame it on the fact that you were at on a certain base at a certain time, and you're sure that's why you have diabetes. No doctor in his worth his weight would say, yes, this is more likely than not to be caused by being at Camp Lejeune in 1972. They're going to look at it and go, there's a family history. There's obesity here. There's all these other things that are more likely to cause it. But to be able to say that it's more likely than not, no, they can't do that. But if you're paying
Now,
them,
what about certain medications that'll make you gain weight, like Prozac, for instance?
Doesn't necessarily make you gain weight. There's a whole lot of things that make you gain weight. The fact that you feel better and are willing to eat now.
Correlation isn't always causation, I guess, is what it comes down to, right, Blake? Can you discuss the differences between that too?
Between what?
Correlation and causation.
Yeah, just because there's a correlation doesn't mean that it was caused by it. Just because X number of people, we look at correlations and we look at large numbers of people and say we had 10,000 people and 1,000 of them have diabetes. Well, one thing they all have in common is they were all at Camp Lejeune. Well, there's a correlation there, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was caused by it.
Okay. So we got a lot of questions. So in the hopper. So let's bring them, Chris.
Yeah, guys, just bear with us. Some of the answers are kind of lengthy. It takes a little bit of time to get through them. I got your questions in the queue. We won't forget about you. All right. So just hang with us. And we got some good questions coming up here. So here we go.
Yeah, we like to talk.
You just want to cover all the bases. That's all.
Howdy, Matt. Howdy ho. Looking for info to file headache secondary to tinnitus rating. Well, first of all, I'm assuming you have tinnitus. And second of all, I'm assuming you have migraines. Have your headaches, migraines been diagnosed, for one? And two, has a doctor said that the tinnitus has caused your migraines? And then I'm going to let Blake and anybody else want to jump in.
Blake?
There's a ton of different types of headaches. For VA purposes, most of them are all rated the same. What I would tell you is to look for, again, not necessarily, you need to show the correlation between the fact that you have tinnitus and what when the tinnitus is worse, the headaches get worse, the symptoms that go along with the headaches, all that's going to be involved in rating. There are a lot of there's medical information out there in journals that do put this as a causation. You need to be very careful with which ones you use. There are some that we call trash journals, and there are some that are reputable. If a journal is from a college of, say, the College of Otolaryngology, then that's probably a very reputable source. But if it's the Reader's Digest version, that's probably not going to hold a lot of weight. I mean, I would, you want to be sure to back it up, and you want to just, instead of saying, I feel like, right, you need the VA rates on facts. And so you need to show that, on this date, keep a headache journal. Be sure when you're journaling in it, when you say, on October 5th, at 5 p.m. the ringing in my ears got excessive, and by 6:30 I was in bed with my head under the pillow with a migraine.
And then being prostrating as well.
Right. And and I was puking, and the headache didn't get better until the ringing in my ears went away.
Yep.
Those are the things that you want to document and show that this caused this. This happened
Right.
first, then this happened, then this happened, this happened, and you have to know how often it happens, what makes it better, what makes it worse. For a lot of us that have tinnitus, white noise will take it away.
Yep.
So I've had patients that we got white noise machines for their bedroom. They went in, they lay down, they put it on, the ringing stops, and their migraine goes away.
Yep.
That definitely, I'm pretty sure. What do you think, Jackie? If you saw that, would you say that's causation?
It would definitely increase like the chances because the examiner would have to do it. But I think this is another one of those correlation isn't necessarily causation. So the elements that Stephanie talked about, in addition, like, your tinnitus would have to predate your headaches.
Yep.
There's other things. It's supposed to be like a whole record review from the time you entered into service into present. So if there's evidence that something else caused your headaches, then it wasn't tinnitus. So, I mean, without seeing the record, it's really hard to speculate, but the advice these guys gave was spot on.
Yeah. And just to close it up, because I know we got a lot of questions waiting, Matt, just make sure, like Jackie, Blake, and myself, we just said that the tinnitus came first. You got to prove the causation that the tinnitus caused the migraines. You got to have the logs. They got to be prostrating, etc., and get all your evidence. And once you get all that evidence, if you have enough evidence to support the secondary migraines to the tinnitus, and certainly file it. If you have any more questions, Matt, I know you have my email. Hit me up, and we'll make sure we answer those. So, next question, Chris. I know we got a lot. All right, Worth Eckett. What if you haven't been seen for a condition while serving? Many don't go due to looking weak, stigma, etc. Will this hurt you while filing a claim due to lack of supporting documents? Well, if you're trying to file a primary disability due to service and you have nothing and your records are silent in service, you gotta, I know it's been done, but you got to have a very strong current diagnosis linking it to service. Hopefully you maybe have had continuity. Most don't, but the continuity would help.
Buddy statements, personal statements, they all have to be extremely strong.
Yeah, extremely strong if your records are silent. It's not that it can't be done. It's just a very big uphill battle when your records are silent in service.
I would like to just piggyback on that real quick. VA really is taking more, the M21 says that veterans are competent to make lay statements. They're not competent to diagnose, like we previously said, but your lay statements can be taken as evidence. But, so, I mean, if you had a lay statement, maybe you're injured in service, and then 5 years later, you're having symptoms, and the examiner could be like, oh yeah, this is an old injury. It's more likely than not, it did happen during service. And then the veteran's lay statements can back that up. It is possible, but what Stephanie's saying, it's definitely more difficult.
Or for example, if you had let's go back to the migraine story. If you came in from duty every afternoon and you went straight to bed and laid down or were puking because of a headache, and your roommate saw that and they reported, said, yeah, I lived with them for 2.5 years and this happened 4 times a week, and they complained of headache, but they never went and got seen for it.
Could help.
Which is worth noting, if you're going to have somebody do a lay statement like that and you put it on a 4138, they're going to want it to be certified. The VA is moving towards this, so you need to be this is certified true under like the what is it?
The layman statement is now, and witness statement is now on the VA 21-10210.
Right, and that specifically says the 10-0210.
Yep.
It specifically says, I certify this is true to the best
Yep.
of my knowledge. It's a sworn statement of declaration. Now you can still use, doing a buddy statement, the VA form 214138, but if you have somebody else making a lay statement or a buddy statement for you, you should have them write in, and you need to sign the form for it to allegedly be counted, because they're phasing out the 4138s and moving towards the form that Stephanie just
And we'll try and put that up there if you can get that up there, Chris. I put it in the VA 21-10210. That is the layman witness statement. That's what everybody should be using, whether you're family, friends, buddies, whatnot. That's what you want to be using. Like I said earlier, the VA 21-4138 is your statement in support of claim for your claim. All right, I know we got more questions. I hope that answered your question. And we'll go to the next one, Chris. So Foster, how much weight do raters and or CMP examiners give to personal statements? My migraine started after many in-service headache injuries, but I didn't complain about my migraines in service, so I bought a Nexus. All right, well, this kind of just goes back to what we just piggybacks off what we just talked about in the last question. It sounds like you didn't have in-service issues with headaches, but you had an in-service head injury. That would bode to your headaches, along with your buddy statements, your personal statement. But it sounds like, I'm wondering if that veteran was denied, if they had to go out and get a Nexus.
I'm just gonna jump in on this real quick. Chris, can you pop up that question again real quick, if you don't mind? So personal statements.
Yep.
So you said that you had many in-service head injuries. First of all, were they documented? Second of all, what was your MOS? Is it consistent with some sort of infantry, paratroopers jumping out of airplanes, underwater demolition? Like, were you doing something like crazy to have these repeated head injuries, or or do you have documented concussions or anything like that? Because you might not have so much luck claiming migraines, but if you claim a traumatic brain injury due to having a concussion, which is just, traumatic brain injury is really just the fancy word for I had a concussion.
Right.
It's much easier to link the migraines to a TBI than it is to a in-service head injury if you don't have them all documented.
Yeah. And TBI, I don't even know if I want to go that route, but TBI can also be combined with mental health.
Well, and you know what? TBI can also be combined with the migraines too. It depends if they're subjective or objective complaints. It really depends. TBIs are handled by special processors who have special training. They have to do like second signature. So it's not like your normal rater working them. They can be very complicated.
So maybe Foster should consider maybe looking at TBI.
Was it Foster? If Foster wants to message me through the Facebook.
Wait, hold on. We'll have Foster email us at VAC. Sure. Yeah, put up the email, Chris. Foster, email us at that email, and I'll make sure that gets to Jackie, and then she can get any more additional answers to your questions, and maybe you guys can work through that question on your in-service head injuries.
Yeah, especially with the traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next question.
I'm not doing this intentionally, guys, but we have another migraine question.
Okay, that's fine. Tonight must be migraines.
It's migraine night here, so
the VA is giving us migraine.
Must have been the holidays. Must have been the holidays. So here we go.
Right. All right, guy on the couch. Welcome back. So I was denied migraines. I was going to try and connect secondary to sinusitis, but was told that the VA considers that pyramiding. Any truth to that?
Steph, I'm just going to grab this one.
Yep, you grab it.
Yeah. So on the sinusitis DBQ, if you look at it, headaches are actually a symptom of sinusitis. So if you claim headaches, and it's not like something weird like migraine or migraine variants or cluster headaches or something like that, and they attribute it to your sinusitis, it's just going to be attributed to your sinusitis. It's going to be a symptom of your sinusitis. I would, if you're trying to get your migraines service connected separately than sinusitis, I would not claim it secondary to sinusitis, because then it becomes a symptom of sinusitis, not a standalone condition.
Yep.
And migraines can get a higher rating than sinusitis.
Yep.
Yes. And they can both be rated. Migraines and sinusitis can be rated.
Yeah, they could be rated separately. Yep.
Right, but you can't, if you're rated for migraines, they can't include headaches in consideration of your rating for sinusitis, because that's where it's considered pyramided.
Yep. All right. Hi, Julia. Thanks for joining us. She's got a question. Do you still need to provide a Nexus letter even if you have that condition in your active duty medical records? Well, if you have an in-service disability or injury, you typically want three things. You want that noted in service. You want continuity if you have it. It's not always possible. Some of us don't have it. And current diagnosis linking to service. So you don't necessarily need a Nexus. You just need to be seen by the doctor for that X disability that was in service and have the current diagnosis with it now, connecting the dots together, stating that your current diagnosis is linked to. So for example, say IBS. I had IBS in service. It was documented numerous times in my service member records. I didn't have continuity, but I had a current diagnosis. My doctor linked it to service, and therefore I filed it and I got rated primary. So I'm just saying, veterans always think they need a Nexus, right? They need a medical opinion. Really, if you guys can just, and maybe Jackie will back me up on this, and Blake and Ashley, if you can just get your doctors to put something in your medical record that is supporting your claim, that's really all you need. You don't need this elaborate letter that says all of this stuff and cites all this stuff. I don't know. Sometimes I think medical records help. What do you guys think?
I think they help, but I think that, again, a personal statement, if there's no continuity, you need to be able to explain why. I didn't have insurance. I didn't, during that period. You need to be able to explain away the no continuity. But if it's in your record and you have a current diagnosis, I think you got a strong, you don't necessarily need a Nexus. What you need to do is say to your current physician, in your medical opinion, do you feel that this condition was either aggravated or caused by my time in service?
Right.
And if they say yes, say, why do you think that? And then and when they tell you, say, can you put that into my record, please? In those words.
I think going at a doctor like that's a lot better than saying, hey, can you fill this out and put a medical Nexus? Yeah. So the answer to you, Julia, is if it is in service and you have the continuity and you have a current diagnosis, great. As Blake said, if you're kind of missing that continuity, give your personal statement as to why, to connect the dots together. But I guess the answer is I don't necessarily think a Nexus is required. It's just the current diagnosis has to be associated to the in-service disability illness. Correct, Jackie?
Well, that is the Nexus.
That is the Nexus. Okay. I'm thinking, when I think of a Nexus, I think of a letter, I guess.
Right.
No, it's just a theory of thought. So a direct grant of service connection requires, one, medical evidence of a current disability. So if it got better or it doesn't exist anymore, guess what? You don't have a claim. It doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Two is evidence of the incurrence or aggravation of a disease during active duty service.
Right.
So being documented in your medical record there. And then finally, three is the medical evidence of a nexus or link between the current disability and the in-service injury. So like, is the veteran's current knee issues related to the knee issues in service? Is it the same knee issue, or did that knee issue resolve and this is completely new and separate? It's like progression of like a disease or injury after service. So that's basically the nexus is what you were asking.
I gotcha. So I hope that helps, Julia. I know we got a lot of questions, so keep rolling with them, Chris. All right. Oh, Alexis is back. Also, last question. I found out I was pregnant. Yes, she's pregnant. A month after getting out, I can't be on my medication I was on for PTSD and my other disabilities. Will that 9-month gap hurt me on my reevaluation? No.
Nope.
No. I could have told you
No.
that.
There's special provisions for
To get pregnant.
women who are pregnant. You
Yeah.
can't, like, there's certain things they won't even evaluate or lower while you're pregnant just because it's not safe. Like things that require x-rays and stuff. Like,
Right.
everybody thinks like VA's bad guy, but like they really, like, your health is most important and the
Right.
baby's health is most important.
And at least you weren't pregnant while you were med boarding, because then you wouldn't have been going anywhere. They have to wait. All right, what's our next question? Joe, on my exit papers, they had back pain. I filed for back pain and got denied. Should I refile? Well, pain in of itself is not a disability. So
You need a diagnosis as to what causes the pain. Degenerative disc disease,
back injury and
yeah.
service, something that's causing the pain, because pain in of itself is not a disability. But like Blake said, and I just said, if you had an injury in service to your back, or let's say your ankles are connected and you tripped and fell and broke your back or hurt your back, then you could file a secondary to your ankles or whatever, something to that effect. But pain, you cannot get rated just by itself. It has to be due to something. Right, Jackie?
Yes.
There are special conditions. Your
Yeah, for the most
chronic
part.
pain syndromes, those
Well,
kind of
yeah.
things.
For the
Most
back
people-
stuff, and it also depends like when you're filing it. So I don't know how far after service you are, but if you like say they find that you have degenerative disc disease or some sort of arthritis in your spine within 1 year service, well, arthritis is a chronic condition that may be presumptively linked under 38 CFR 3.307 and maybe 38
What
CFR
did you
309, but definitely 07. That can be
I'm sorry, Jackie. I didn't hear any of that.
after getting off of active duty.
All I heard was wah, 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 wah,
One,
wah.
one, one, 3.307 and 3.309.
But the fact that you complained about it on your exit exam, you're competent to report your symptoms.
Right.
Is good for you because it's documented. So I guess I would be more interested in knowing if you have current treatment records or anything in your current records that you're complaining about back pain, continuity, like an injury like arthritis or degenerative disc disease, which is a progressive degenerative condition
needs
that
to
doesn't
find out
pass
where the
for
pain is.
3 months.
He needs to find out where the pain is coming from.
Right. And
What his MOS was.
Right.
yes, because sometimes that can be important too. But also like VA CMP examiners can diagnose. So if you've never been diagnosed for a back exam, they can order the imaging exam and diagnose you based on that. So if you don't have a no kidding legit like diagnosis, still appeal it or put in the supplemental claim with like your new evidence and stuff and go for it, because I mean you do have it documented in service, which is really half the battle.
Right. So Joe, kind of get a little bit more in depth on the back injury disability, where that pain's coming from. And if you feel like emailing us, Joe, go ahead and email us there, and we'll try to further help you along with answers to your question. All right. What's our next question? We got a lot tonight. I love it. Oh, Julia. And please, could you talk about what package veterans should submit to get faster processing a claim? I believe it's a fully developed claim, but VA doesn't explain it clearly. Thank you. Well, I'm thinking of two things. I'm thinking of somebody that's either homeless or financially stressed that can do an expedited one. But I think what she's talking about is if you have all the evidence and you just boom, you just want to send it to the in for the claim and let them decide because you have nothing else to submit. Is that new quick submit? Because I'm a little out of.
So we can touch on this very briefly because I really don't feel like spending a lot of time on it.
Yes.
So as far as the FPC program, fully developed claim program, yes, you submit At the time that you submit your claim, you submit all the evidence. There is no other evidence that VA has to go out, no private treatment records. You've submitted everything that VA wants to consider while deciding your claim. So the only thing at that point would really be, unless they find a duty to assist, that they really drop the ball, but you're basically given a waiver that it's okay to rate your claim based on the information given, unless VA decides that your claim can't be processed under FDC, in which case you'll get a letter. So yes, it is supposed to be faster because the VA has to go out for like less records and stuff, and the records, you know, they have a certain amount of time frame that has to pass, and then they have to make a second attempt, and a certain amount of time frame has to pass. So yes, it's supposed to be faster. Basically, if you're putting in an FDC claim, you're putting in any private treatments that you've had. You annotate if you've had VA treatment records, because the VSRs and the RVSRs are supposed to ensure that all of your VA treatment records or anything available for DOD, TRICARE, government treatment records are of file and ready to go. So as long as all that's done, especially if you haven't had private treatment, then it can be considered under the FDC. And does it speed it up? Yes. Is it super fast? No.
Okay. Thanks, Jackie. Chris, next question. So here's a follow-up with Joe on the back, guys. So he's saying he had MST, just so everybody knows, that's military sexual trauma, event and boot camp, and got approved for PTSD during the fight during the fight in that event, and have had surgery after being out for 15 years with DDD. Okay, so Joe, if you can respond really quickly with a yes or no to this. My first question is, are you stating that the back injury was due to the assault that you had? Is that a yes or a no? If you can reply back really quickly, that would help me understand, because I think, are you guys getting that? Is that what you're getting?
Mine is from MST.
No, but are you getting that assumption? The back injury is from
MST,
the assault. So
I guess my question would be, is that were you granted PTSD based on MST, or were you granted PTSD based on a personal assault, or were you based PTSD? Like, it would really depend on what basis your PTSD was granted on. If you don't feel like comfortable answering that in chat, please email us, and then we can answer your questions.
I think that's best. I think that's best. Joe, why don't you go ahead and email us? Make sure you email us that, and we'll get with you, because it's a little bit more sensitive of a matter there, and we can definitely help you in a more private setting with that. But I kind of see where you're trying to go with it now, and we'll try and help you the best we can on that for sure. All right, we got another question.
All right, I'm going to try and get this right. This is Erin. She has this very lengthy question.
Yep.
Steph, can you see the starred ones? I'm not sure which one starts it.
Yes, I can see them.
Which is it, 1, 2, or 3 that starts the question?
Star 1 went to the VA.
Okay, here we go.
So she went to, this is the one we were talking about earlier, guys. I'm going to put the screenshot up. She went to the VA to file for her temporary disability for her total knee replacement. The VA employee encouraged her to apply for an increase in her VA overall compensation of 60% to 100% for permanent disability at the same time. Now, I went to the VA website to check the status of my claim, and it says they've combined the claims and gave me a date of August 13th, 2023 as date may be approved. I think there's one more part of this caveat of this. So my temporary disability, which only took 3 months to go through, is now not going to go through until August. Is there any way to fix this? So we kind of touched on this, Erin, before you came on, and we appreciate you coming on because I wanted to get you an answer. Jackie, you want to kind of fill her in on what we kind of.
Yeah, so it kind of seemed like maybe you filed for the permanent disability advice, the temporary disability, in which case it would probably be best that you call the VA, the 1-800 number that ends in 1000, and you talk to a clerk there so they can put a phone contact note in, and then you send in a 4138 so that you can say that you meant to claim temporary disability advice. The permanent disability in regards to the dates changing, guess what, folks? PACT Act just went into effect. VA is now right in PACT Act, effective 01/01/2023. So you're going to see there's a backlog. When President Biden signed it into law, August 10, 2022, he gave, yes, perfect. Thank you, Chris. He gave VA X amount of time to hire new personnel to take care of the influx. That's not just VA personnel, that is examiners, CMP personnel, VA hospitals, increasing, getting them ready for the influx. So now that everybody has the green light to actually be rating these claims, it's going to slow everything else out for a little bit of time. And that may be why you're seeing the projected finish date is done now too. But
yeah, I'm wondering if that's not a CYA thing. We're going to say it's going to be ready on August 23rd. And if you get it on June 1st, you're happy.
Right. Everybody's getting a lot of projected dates. I'm seeing on a lot of social media platforms, a lot farther out dates. And I think, Jackie, you've hit, the nail on the head here. It's also because of all the PACT Act now opened up. And so it's hurry up and wait, guys. It is. But going back to you, Aaron, because I know we've got more questions we've got to get through here, and we've got about a half an hour left. Do what Jackie said. Call that 800 number. We just put it in the chat tomorrow. Explain your situation. Submit the VA 21-4138 and upload it for your claim. Explain that you were filing for the 100% temporary disability due to your TKR, and communicate that way with the rater. If you have any other questions, Aaron, Chris, pop up our email again for her. Go ahead and email us at that email, and we'll be happy to help you answer some more questions.
I would just like to note real quick, Steph, employees that work at the hospital, like VHA employees who work at the hospital, are completely different than VBA employees that are the VSRs, the raters, the decision review officers, and everything that entails that rate your claims. They are all VA, but they are two separate entities. So I would be optimistically cautious when taking advice from somebody at the VHA, unless they have some sort of designation saying that they're a VSO or they work claims or something to that fact, just because there's so much misinformation out there, and you just don't want to be caught up and in it, I guess is what I'm saying. Yep.
All right, moving on. Next question. Oh, Foster. If secondary conditions like IBS are connected to medication from primary condition, can they ever be static or PNT, since the condition could theoretically go away if medications are stopped?
Good question.
That's a good question.
Medications stop. New medications come along that don't have the side effects.
IBS gets better.
Yeah.
Well, so basically, if you have a primary condition, you have IBS from the medication, then there are certain things that go into effect for a static evaluation. First, depends on the percentage. Some grants will be static just based on the low percentage that they're assigned. Your age comes into play, how long it's been to effect, and everything of that nature. So it is possible for IBS that was granted secondary to medications to be static right off the bat.
I want to say something else. I want to interject here with the VHA. The VHA and the VBA are two different. So you guys going to medical at the VHA thinking that the VBA is got their glasses on and looking at no. You're going to the VHA for your health care. The VBA is for your benefits. What you do at the VHA is not being reported back, unless it's a surgery sometimes. Unless it's surgery. I know that. It's not going. The doctor's not sending the medical records to the VBA when there's no claim existed.
But if you open a claim,
Correct.
VBA will upload your VHA records because they're available to them.
I'm just saying,
I'm
saying if a veteran's going for health care, they're living their life, they're not sending everything to the VBA. The only time the VBA is looking is when you open up a claim, then your entire medical portfolio could be looked at. But then again, usually the rater is only looking at what you've claimed unless there's something that they see, right? That might be
super obvious.
Right.
It has to be super obvious because nobody,
exactly
again, nobody's looking to reduce you. Nobody's looking to call a clear
Right.
and unmistakable error that's not favorable to the veteran. It takes a lot of time. It requires a second signature. Everybody, everybody's being, there's quality and production that come into factors for what, for their performance.
right.
They're not looking to screw over the veteran. If something's that obvious, they have to address it because then it becomes a reflection on them and how well they're performing their duties.
Ain't nobody got no time to go out there looking for no more work.
Yes. Yes, so true.
All right, guys, we got a question here. This is
Okay.
a pay question.
It's a what question?
It's kind of a former U.S. Marine haven't received her disabilities for December and January. She's 100% disability, but she lives in Dominican Republic.
Okay. Well, first December would have been paid January. So January 1st was for December. So if you're living overseas and you've been getting it this whole time, my fear and what's ringing in my head is something either going on with your bank or something's going on with your rating, some type of proposal to reduce, not all the 100%, but I just had this question in our group a couple weeks ago with their pay not being, and then they called and found out that there was something going on. My recommendation is you need to call that 1-800 number tomorrow and find out what's going on since you're overseas with your pay. Like, did you move recently overseas? Is your address changed? Has your bank account changed? Has anything changed?
Have you accumulated a debt, like a GI Bill debt? Did you not finish school? Anything like that? You need to call and figure it out. They'll tell you on the phone.
Because we can't tell, nothing we could say can answer that question for you. But I will tell you this, you should have already been paid for December. Right. So if you haven't gotten to, because we remember we get paid in the arrears, guys. January 1st was for December. So we've all should have been paid by now for December. So I would definitely call that number.
You get paid for the month you lived through.
Yep. Thank God we lived another month. Woohoo.
You get paid for the month you don't live through too.
Okay.
Just
saying. The loan expediter. How soon do I know if I get a CMP exam? I sent a DBQ, Nexus, migraines, secondary to tinnitus in mid-October. Thanks for all you do. Well, we appreciate that. And boy, it is a migraine night. So how do I know well, again, Jackie, is this one that qualifies, has to have a CMP exam, or?
It would really depend. If you sent a DBQ and a Nexus, it would really depend if they're valid or not. If they meet all the requirements that VA or Congress actually dictates for them to be valid. I mean, honestly, without seeing the DBQ or Nexus, it's speculation to say otherwise. It's probably, and it differs if it's an initial claim or an appeal, like how long it may take. So,
right.
If you're still waiting, I'm guessing that you're still waiting for somebody to review your claim, and especially if you only put it in October, review your claim and decide if a new examination or opinion is needed based on what you submitted.
And I'm not sure if you were with us earlier because the same question came up kind of similar about migraine secondary to tinnitus, and Blake and Jackie and I touched on it too. So just so you know, guys, this live is saved on our YouTube channel. So you can always go back and watch it at your leisure if you don't if you can't watch the whole thing, but it's there to kind of go back and see the questions that were asked. They may be the same questions. And apparently migraine secondary to tinnitus has been
it's been a new thing. It's definitely been something they've been seeing more frequent.
Have you?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. All right. Do we have any other questions?
B. Foster said he might ask another question. I'm not sure yet, but while we're waiting, we still have a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw all this good stuff up here again. Guys, again, join our Facebook group. There's a ton of information that all these guys put out. They answer a lot of questions. They're on chat. We have files you can go through, DBQs. We got all kinds of stuff there. So please join the Facebook group. And also our YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe. You'll get updates on all these live events, any videos that are put out. We put out videos. We try to do them fairly regularly. And we try to do these live chats twice a month on Wednesdays. So join that YouTube group. And last thing, as always, if you didn't get to your question or you're not sure if we answered it or you just have another question, email us. Steph gets the emails. We can kind of go off and talk to the people we need to talk to, and then we can kind of get everything back into one email and get it back to you. So
and I think our next topic, guys, just stay tuned, is going to be IU, individual unemployability, TDIU. I know that's been asked by me to do it. I'm sorry, I've kind of pushed it off, but with the holidays and everything, but I think that's going to be our next video out for everybody. So stay tuned for that one.
All right. So B. Foster's got another question here, so we'll get his up.
All right. Is it common for CMP examiners to give diagnoses, or is it better to get diagnoses before the CMP exam? Well, it's always better to have it before, in my opinion. You don't want to rely on a CMP examiner to diagnose you, but
if the CMP examiner gives something, if the CMP examiner gives a more beneficial diagnosis to the veteran, it's a toss-up.
So would you recommend? That's always been something I wondered. Would you, if a veteran doesn't have a diagnosis currently, do they just gamble and put in the claim and hope they get an exam and the examiner examines and diagnoses? Okay.
The threshold for ordering an examination with the VA is very low, especially now with the implementation of PACT Act.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a diagnosis, but you have something like IBS or knee pain, back pain, I mean, you should definitely put a claim in. The worst that the VA can tell you is no, and then you still have appeal rights. I mean, really, is it really going to hurt your feelings that bad if they say no? You can always appeal.
Isn't it clogging up the system when you're just throwing crap against the wall?
I mean, well, so there's that delicate line. Are you so if you have a legitimate issue, whether you have a diagnosis or not, you should claim it.
But not everything here, and here's where I'm playing devil's advocate too. Not everything we have is related to service. Not everything we have is due to a disability. But yet every time I see this a lot in our group. Oh, this just happened. How do I claim it?
I just got diagnosed with sleep apnea and I'm 15 years out. How do I claim it?
And I'm overweight.
And the only thing I have a disability for is carpal tunnel. How do I get my OSA covered?
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell, like, you can't discriminate. You can't tell somebody they can't put a claim in, especially as, like, you know.
I didn't say that.
You can't. No, I know, but I mean, like, a veteran can put in whatever claim they want. If they're going to clog up the system, well, that's on them. Like, you know, I believe in karma. Karma's coming for you, but
I try to encourage. I just try to encourage a veteran to, like I said earlier in the show, get an intent to file, put an ITF out. You got a year. What's the difference in that year while you're gathering all this information to make it a solid claim? If you win it, it goes back to that effective date. You got the back pay.
And who's going to be a better advocate for yourself than yourself? Ask Blake. Blake, who's the best advocate for the veterans? It's
the veteran.
Right.
Yep, the veteran.
You know, you know, unless you have your back against the wall, and you shouldn't be doing this. If I can't make my monthly bills and I'm counting on my VA money, don't be throwing something out there, because it's going to be 6 months to a year before you hear anything.
No.
And I see so many veterans file. I see this all the time. I have 70% mental health. I file for 100. Now I'm being proposed a reduction. or they're filing for something else because they're trying to get to that 100% club. That's all I hear sometimes. 100%. How do I get? It is not about every veteran being 100%. It's about every veteran getting what they deserve. And I can't tell you how many times we have all seen in our group somebody come in there saying, oh, I filed for this and now I'm being proposed a reduction.
Right.
And they're like, that's not fair. Why? Well, unfortunately, 9 out of 10 times, whatever you filed for had something to do with either as a secondary or something to that one that they looked at and said, oh, wait, there's improvement. So
Right. And I will tell you this, the question was, to have a diagnosis before going to a CNP exam. My first CNP exam, my examiner was a year out of nurse practitioner school and had never heard of what I had. I spent 45 minutes of the first hour of the exam explaining to her what she was looking for.
and what if we didn't have medical background like you?
Right.
Well, listen, hey, so I'm not going to share my illnesses, but I have an illness that is commonly misdiagnosed as other illnesses, which it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like Blake,
Right.
autoimmune stuff is commonly misdiagnosed. However, with the examiners and stuff, everybody's human. And I think sometimes people are so quick to place blame. You have to give people a little bit of grace, and you have to give them the information, and you have to give them the basis to help you, and veterans just sometimes want to file something and they're like, well, I feel this is due to this. And you know what? I'm sorry, that's not enough. You
Right.
have to do the work and provide the information.
Yeah.
Help them help you,
Right.
At
Exactly.
a certain point, we have to accept some responsibility as veterans to put forth a quality product to expect a good result.
But on the same token, you also have a lot of crappy ass CMP examiners when you go there and you have medical opinions from specialists for your disability that they don't even want to look at. They just want to give their own opinion and they know nothing about it, like you said. So it's a
Report
double-edged.
them. Report them. The
Well,
VA doesn't know they're shitty unless you report them.
Exactly. And I tell people all the time to do that too. So I get it. So, All right, we got another question. I got service connected for psoriasis and now I want to submit for, what is that?
Psoriatic arthritis.
Yeah, there you go. I'm bad at words. Secondary, and condition that is obviously attributed to the initial. How much evidence do I need for the secondary? I'm out on this question. You guys answer it.
Blake, if you want it, I've just dealt with those. So
I thought Ashley was going to take it.
Ashley, go.
Ashley's looking at Chris like I'm going to kill you because
I'm
I
gonna
don't
kill
know
you.
about this either.
All right, go ahead, Blake.
You need very little, probably. I'm going to say at least some medical literature to tie the two together, and the current diagnosis for both. What do you think, Jackie?
I think Kevin, based on what I just saw, and this is only one veteran that I just worked with, the diagnosis of both conditions was enough for a favorable opinion from the examiner from the VA, because they're kind of both autoimmune and tie into each other. And we know people with autoimmune diseases often have other autoimmune diseases. So, of course, strengthen your case and give lay statements and supportive medical literature that you have read and reviewed that make sure they actually support your argument, and then put it in. But that's not a far stretch or a reach at all.
Nope, that's not carpal tunnel causing OSA.
That is very true.
All right. Another migraine.
It's the same guy.
I'm having a migraine. I'm still working on initial claim, nothing filed yet. I'm going to file migraines instead of TBI because I hear TBI is very hard to get, especially since I have PTSD. Is this true? Well, have you ever had a traumatic brain injury?
Have you ever had a documented
Head injury?
Traumatic brain injury? Were you dizzy, documented dizziness, loss of consciousness, confusion, witnesses, anything like that? With TBIs, it is the threshold's just up until so maybe 2012, everybody said concussions. Nobody really like considered it like a traumatic brain injury. And now we know better, that we know they have long lasting consequences and stuff. So it would depend on if you were treated for anything in service, if there's any documentation. Like I said, please just email the group. I've done a lot of TBI cases, and I'd be happy to discuss the details of your specific instance with you, to make sure that you're filing something that would be the most advantageous to your.
Well, and the other thing about TBI and mental health is a lot of times people get frustrated when they're rated separately for mental health and TBI, then they're combined, because don't forget, if they share the same symptoms, then you cannot separate the symptoms between the mental health and the TBI. They will be combined, so as one. So that's where you also really have to distinguish your mental health and TBI symptoms, because I see a lot of veterans have PTSD with.
So, with that stuff, like when they're rated on TBI, there's like, I think like, I can't even remember off the top of my head, like 7 or 9 criteria. And if they say they can't delineate the symptoms between the mental health and the TBI, or there's too much overlap with the symptoms, you'll be rated on whatever the highest evaluation is. So if they can't delineate the symptoms, it's going to be for the PTSD associated with TBI, or it's going to be the TBI associated with the PTSD. It's really going to depend on the evaluation of the examiner for that, to see if they can determine that they are separate and distinct, or they have too many. Is comorbid the right word here?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Yes, comorbid symptoms, right? Yeah.
Yeah. When we tell y'all to email us, you have no clue the discussions that go on behind the scenes. All day,
So
every
much.
day.
They do.
So very much.
I don't think everybody takes, I mean, they do, they're very appreciative as in the group. And I'm so passionate about this because, you know, long story short, I didn't know I deserved benefits for 16 years. So I became a part of this group. I now run this group. I now have a great group of people running this, including my husband. We have spent thousands of dollars on our own equipment to have my studio so that I can do videos. And I'm also doing consults. While I'm not accredited with the VA or anything like that, it's just my knowledge. People have asked me for advice, so I do that to help them out as well. But like Jackie said, those emails that come, they come to myself and Chris, and then I share them with Jackie, Blake, and Ashley, and we go from there. And then there's a time where maybe we piece off, and Jackie will say, "All right, I got this. I'll deal with the veteran," and then she goes here, or Blake will go here. Like today, we had another veteran. Blake took the time, you know, because he's a retired doctor. He had the knowledge, so we send it there. So it's collectively a group of all of us together helping the best that we can based on our experience and knowledge. And that's what I'm passionate about. And that's what I love about this, especially this live Q&A, because then everybody can come and ask their questions.
And we're
So
not always 100% right, but we try to
No.
get you at least aimed in the right direction.
But you have 4, what I would call subject matter experts weighing in on your individual issues when you email, or they bring it together, or 5 if you count Chris.
Chris,
Do I have to stay on camera so you remember I'm here? Is that what it has to be?
I'm so sorry.
Well, remember, Chris never wanted to be in the little, you know, when we first started, Chris was the back. He's like, "No, I'm not up." Now he's like, pops in, pops out, pops in.
Yeah, Gunny.
Just thank you all for, you know, I'm just trying to keep on your toes and, you know,
right,
pop in and pop out. So that's it for us, guys. We've got an hour and a half. Again, Facebook, YouTube, email.
Yep.
A lot of ways to get a hold of us. Like Blake said, you know, we just try to put you in the right direction.
Pass it along to your friends.
Yep. And Jackie had a great point too, is we want you to put forth your best claim.
Yep.
That'll speed up the process. That'll get you what you deserve. All those questions you have. If you put in a respectable claim, then everything's going to move quicker and better for you.
And our next live, guys, will be 2 weeks. So we're trying to do it again. Every 2 weeks will be Granted, we can all be here. If we're not, then some of us are, but it will be January. What is that? The 18th?
The
January
18th.
18th.
Mhm.
So that'll be our next live with everybody. So be sure to spread the word. People have questions, come on here. That's what we're all about. We love doing this. This live will be on our YouTube. Feel free to go back and watch it. And yeah, we appreciate it all.
Yep. We'll see you guys
wait a
next
minute.
time.
Hold
We
on.
have another question.
One more
Senator
question.
Watson.
One quick question, Chris. Just one
Okay,
more.
here we go.
One quick. How can I get a copy of my last CMP exam? I've asked 4 VSO officers and they won't give me a copy. I've requested my C file and it's in the gathering stage. I requested it in August.
I'll just
Jackie.
take it. Well, VSOs are not supposed to print out anything in your C file, your code sheet, or anything of that nature. You can get your rating decisions by calling the 1-800 number that ends in 1000, or you can request your C file. That is what you have to do. The legit way is to request your C file. If your VSO is giving you your code sheet, they are wrong. So that is the legitimate legal way to do it.
Can they go to the VBA, the Veterans Benefit Administration?
Give it to them.
Okay. Okay.
The requested C file. It's a Freedom of Information Act.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. I appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all in a couple weeks.
Take care, guys.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Good night.